Hello, hello, hello. This is Gavin Palmer with Hero Looking for Group. I did some search for news. I found a new trick in a Cozia. News. That doesn't do the trick. You actually have this tab here for news. And yeah, did not see that earlier. I'm not seeing anything about the MORE Act. And then if I do Google News, I imagine they have a tab as well. There it is. So nothing too important going on. They aren't talking about the MORE Act. There's people with agendas trying to shape, basically trying to have power, trying to make money. That's what I see here. I'm not seeing the fight against the most unjust law in our country. But anyways, I do a search for the MORE Act and I don't see anything new. So that's why I'm reporting. Let's see. So I thought GovTrack was interesting. It says Kamala Harris is the sponsor. I recommend Normal. They had some pretty good links. There's a co-sponsors, the MORE Act, the sponsor. So it's interesting that this says Nadler. The other link maybe is outdated. It is outdated. It says Harris. It also doesn't have anything about it passing the committee, even though it has passed the committee. So this GovTrack US is not a great website. Normal kept me up to date. I subscribe to. I subscribe for updates from them, and the actions here on Congress.gov is the Committee on Judiciary amended, and this should be Normal reports that should be voted on in the House this week. Let's see. So I clicked through trying to read, catch up on what happened. So basically when it went to committee, people amended the bill and ultimately it was passed. I dug in. I went and watched. I tried to look for the videos that were recorded. So this video here, I listened to it. Basically, so this is Nadler, and he is in favor. Most of the people were in favor. I think it was like 22 people in favor, 10 against. This guy, Mr. Collins, he was against. He brought up the States Act, as well as this guy brought up the States Act. I think he was also against the MORE Act. And this guy, Matt Gaetz, I liked what he had to say. I think he's a Republican in Florida, near where I live. He said he was going to be in favor of the MORE Act, and note that Florida has legalized cannabis medicinally. But he also would encourage the States Act as well. And so the reasons why, we can get into the reasons why they are against the MORE Act. It's mostly based in fear and a desire. Their claim is the desire to look after children. They don't want children getting a hold of stuff, but I don't think they're very intelligent, and I'm not sure if they're honest, because there was another senator who basically brought up the point that you go to a high school, give two kids $20, tell one to go get alcohol and tell one to go get marijuana, and the person who goes to get marijuana will come back first because it's harder to get alcohol, and he used the word booze. So the current way that we do things is bad. These people say just because it's bad doesn't mean we should just totally remove it from the controlled substances list. I think they are not intelligent, or either dishonest, or simply, they're populists who are trying to represent people who aren't informed, and that might be what's happening. He was for the States Act. I followed and tweeted at Matt Gaetz asking if he would be interested in getting into a conversation. I do not expect him to respond. Most of the times when I reach out to people, they don't respond, but we'll see. The States Act. So is it worth looking at? Strengthening the 10th Amendment. It would recognize legalization of cannabis. So I'm not exactly sure what all this does, except for basically it would not remove cannabis from the controlled substances list, which means you could not do federal research. It was kind of let's see. I mean, it would have been a step in the right direction, but it's, so you either take baby steps or you take larger steps. And I think that we are moving way too slow. This thing, they said for 80 years we've been punishing people for marijuana. I guess a concern about the States Act, and I haven't read it, so I would need to read it. A concern, I guess, would be what all do states get to enforce at a local level and ignore federal laws. I'm guessing that this is just about cannabis, if this is a truly baby step law. Here's the minority views from the committee, and they say it's flawed legislation that is designed to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level and remove it entirely from the Controlled Substances Act. So flawed legislation that's opinionated. So flawed legislation in the minds of people who have low intelligence, low emotional intelligence, low moral intelligence. This extreme and unwise bill, so no need for that. This is framing, so the news is not supposed to do framing, but objective in general. Objectively looking at things, it should not be framed. So allowing bad actors and transnational criminal organizations to further exploit Americans' addiction crisis. So I don't understand how that is true. Like, marijuana isn't addictive, and in fact, legalizing might undercut the profits for bad actors. I guess the concern is that bad actors could easily move into the business of providing marijuana. And so the thing they're ignoring here is that research is not actually allowed because of the Controlled Substances Act. So, like, federal grants cannot go to doing the science. So you can pause and read through this thing if you'd like. The conclusion, open the floodgates of marijuana cultivation, distribution, and sales with little to no controls whatsoever. So little to no controls at the federal level. So, and that's not a bad thing. Let the states do it. There's no need for help from the federal government. All these people these might be hypocrites who say we need to shrink the size of government. That is one. This guy, his criticism was that there was going to now be this opportunity for the federal government to be increased in size by increasing the tax on marijuana. So it's a legitimate concern. That could happen. Probably will. So, but I don't think it makes it right that we continue to have cannabis be a plant that people grow and are sent to prison and have their children taken away from them. Like, locking people in cages and taking away their children for growing a plant is immoral. And the people who support it are immoral. They are concerned for children and pregnant mothers, but there are there are dangers to cannabis, but it's just because it is dangerous for a few people, a small percentage of the population, doesn't mean it should be illegal for the entire population. And the ultimately, everything is dangerous. Cars are dangerous, right? Are there? Yeah. So, yeah, it's milk is dangerous. Water is dangerous. You can drink too much water and die. I mean, so does it get abused? I think is the question, and ultimately, I don't. I think, yeah, I'm sure everything gets abused, including television, which is funny because one of the bills that was discussed when I was trying to watch the committees, they did not talk about the MORE Act on one where they said it was about the MORE Act. They were actually talking about broadcast television. And so broadcast television is one of these things large amounts of people are addicted to. It changes their minds. It's a mind-altering substance. It shapes people's perspectives. Propaganda is pushed into people's brains. This is how someone like Edward Bernays would control the perception and the beliefs of the population. So they ultimately want to control the narrative. So the another complaint from these guys was that this bill will not get passed, which, if it doesn't get passed, it will be sad. So the people who vote against it, I'd say you need to vote. You need to identify the people who vote against it, and those people can be removed from office. That's the reason it needs to be voted upon. So they can say that there isn't enough support, but that's just their opinion, their perspective, and it's not an objective opinion unless, it only becomes objective when you run the experiment and get the data. Right now they're just guessing. They're doing educated guesses about the data on what will happen with this bill. So run the experiment, get the data, and now you have the data which helps you decide who should not be in office because they are immoral. Clear and simple. Anyways, this is Gavin Palmer with Hero Looking for Group. That's the overview of the MORE Act. I will continue following the MORE Act. I will keep my eyes out on the news. And if I see anything that is very important to talk about, I will talk about it. Thank you for your time, and please like and subscribe to this video. If you are interested in Minerval Arts, if you're interested in learning, using conversation to learn, and feel free to reach out to me. All right. Thank you for your time.